everybody, my name is April Erickson, and today I am going to show you how to draw and color a stylized vehicle. Today's lesson we're going to cover how to take a 1967 Ford Mustang Fastback and turn it into a cartoony, fun sort of look. So the design that we were given was based off of this car right here. As you can see, obviously it's a real car. And what we're going to do is we're going to take it and turn it into a cartoony, fun, exaggerated sort of look. Now, the way we're going to accomplish this is we're going to take our design reference and then we're going to jump to thumbnailing it. And the way I tend to work and the way I prefer to work is I usually start off in a side view, and this allows me to more easily see the shapes and proportions and kind of play around with that, which we'll get into in just a second. And then once we find a thumbnail that we're happy with, we're going to turn that and we're going to do a 3/4 front view. And these obviously are not going to be the final ones that we're doing because it's not based off of the '67 Mustang. But these are just going to give you an example of where we're going to take it in terms of clean, finalized line drawing. And then once we have our clean line drawing, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump into a color stage where hopefully we'll eventually get something that's kind of cute and fun and looks like these examples over here. Now, to go back and briefly touch upon what I was saying in the thumbnail stage, is I would like to go over some very basic design principles with you that I think you might find helpful as a student. Now, when we're trying to take something that's as realistic looking as that car that we'd seen earlier, the '67 Mustang, and we're going to try and break it and turn it into a cartoon, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to examine a couple of things. First up is shape, and shape is basically what it looks like in 2D. And like you saw earlier in the thumbnails that I had done, those are all they're very flat, they're very two-dimensional sort of profile looks to the car. And that's what this here with the shape is going to be like. We're going to go ahead and we're going to try and break it into either very organic, very curvy looking shapes, very sharp angular shapes, and see where these sorts of lines and shape come into play in the side view of the car. And then we're also going to break it into squares, like if they're more squarish looking shapes, more triangular looking shapes, or more circular looking shapes. Now, obviously when we go and we jump from the 2D thumbnailing stage into the more clean, finalized line art, we're going to have to turn these 2D shapes into forms or three-dimensional shapes. Now what ends up happening is that when you make the transition from shape into form, obviously your squares are going to become either boxes or rectangles that are three-dimensional. Your triangles are going to become cones. And then you'll see here that your circles, they can either become your cylinder type of shapes, or they can become a sphere type of shape. Now you'll notice that if you take a cylinder and you look at it flat from the top, it's going to be a very flat circular shape. So you're really not going to be able to get a full understanding of what a circle will look like in 3 dimensions until you make that transition from 2D to 3D. And the other thing too that's very important, especially here where we're taking a realistic car and we're going to turn it into a cartoon form, is proportion. Now, if you were to go back and take a look at our car here, you'll notice that the proportions, you have a very long sort of hood, and you'll see that the body shape too is very long and very stubby short end. But whereas here, when you look at all of these types of cars, everything kind of gets squished. So it's like we took the car and we squished it, and now everything is very exaggerated, very close together. So that space that you get here between the wheels is all of a sudden shortened, and you still get that sort of like elongated, swooping kind of hood here, but then everything past that is very, very much shortened. And so these are sorts of things that you have to keep in mind when we're playing around in the thumbnailing stage of things that you want to be really conscious of. So going back here, basically proportion means is that you can take any of your 2D shapes, any of your 3D shapes, and then combine them in different ways. So for example, here we have a 2D square, and that could be small, medium, big. You could just as easily have a 2D triangle or circle in these same sorts of proportions. And this is not to say that you necessarily need small, medium, big. It's just that you need to have some type of variation in your design. So that could be small, big, medium. It could be small, small, big. It could be small, big, small. Any sort, like, this is just a tool for you to start to understand basically how you're able to mix and match your shapes. Similarly, aside from big, medium, small, you can also use skinny, medium, and wide. So this could be a very skinny square, or a rectangle, or a cone, or a sphere of some kind. And you just mix these up and you start playing with them until you get an interesting design. Now, that being said, the design itself has already been taken care of us. This is the design. It's just that translating this design into a different sort of way of looking at it, as in the cartoon form. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started, and we'll take a look at doing some thumbnails for the car. So again, things that you just want to keep in mind is that, actually let me grab these ones here. I'll just go ahead and start playing with these. So you'll notice here that in this one, in all of these actually, the wheels I've made much larger than on the actual model. The wheels are taking up much more room. Everything beyond the hood has been squished considerably because just by elongating the hood it makes it a lot more dynamic sort of feeling. And also gives it an element of sort of like speed, and you want this to be a very fast, very aggressive looking car, so you want to have, you know, long sort of swooping shapes. The other thing too that's fun to play around with is that the car itself, you'll notice, it's flat to the ground. But because it's a cartoon and because we want to give it some more dimension, you can actually raise the back wheels up a little bit. You can make the back wheels a little bit larger if you want. And just have fun, because in this stage you're very early on in the game and you really want to just explore the different possibilities of combinations with these shapes. And don't be afraid to try something new. In this case, why don't we try making the wheels bigger, and then also, just to see how it'll work, we'll move them really close together, because if you look at the original reference that you're given, you'll see here that the space between these wheels in most of these cars is very narrow.
Pencil Kings, where great art begins. PencilKings.com.